Events happen around us all the time, in our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced. Eagle News, because we live in interesting times.
It's time to take one step further and face the impossible. Time to search the unknown and fight for the truth. Time to overcome boundaries and connect the world. It's time for DW News.
Toilet paper at tissue boxes mo. Hindi mo ba alam, mauubos daw ang mga tissue products? Bakit naman? Ang raw materials daw ng mask at tissue products ay iisa lang. Saan naman galing ang balitang yan? Ay basta, narinig ko lang din. Maraming diling kayang nagpo-post sa Facebook at Twitter, kaya kung ako sa'yo, kumuha ka na din. Sige na't mauna na ako sa'yo
Huwag basta-basta magpaniwala
sa mga nakikita
o nababasa sa social media.
Magsaliksik at i-verify ang lahat ng impormasyon
Nakukuha sa internet.
Tandaan,
maging responsable tayo
sa paggamit ng social media
nang hindi magdulot ng panic sa iba.
kung paanong dapat labanan ng COVID-19.
Ay gayon din ang ating pagsugpo.
Sa black propaganda at maling impormasyon.
Dennis Lu,
Lou Omelda,
Vivian Alpartosa,
Tyranel Pililu,
Hannibal Arevalo,
EBC,
Japan,
Euro,
we live in interesting times.
Accurate and fair reporting. Not only from Batanes to Tawi-Tawi, but also abroad. Detailed and timely stories relevant to people all over the world. Catch all of these at Net25. Your reliable source of news, entertainment, and technology updates.
Toutes mes amis ici au Canada. Bienvenue and welcome to Eagle News Mornings from Canada with live coverage of the COVID-19 pandemic and other news across the country. I'm Sabir Mufti here in Ottawa, our nation's capital. Happy Friday to everyone. Lots of news happening today, so please sit back, relax, and enjoy. We start things off a little differently this morning with our big breaking news story coming from Europe. 1 dead and 5 missing in a Canadian military helicopter crash in the Mediterranean. Our good friend and trusted anchor Thomas I. Likeness reports from Edmonton, Alberta. Thomas?
Morning, Sabir. It's been another difficult day for Canada, and especially for Nova Scotia, as well as the pandemic and the mass shooting earlier this month in Nova Scotia. People in the province this morning awoke to the news that a Royal Canadian Navy helicopter crashed off the coast of Greece this morning. 6 people aboard. The body of one has been recovered. She's been identified as Sub-Lieutenant Abigail Colbro of Halifax, Nova Scotia. Now, the helicopter had been part of military exercises in the Mediterranean Sea when it crashed. Prime Minister Trudeau this morning paid tribute to those aboard the aircraft.
All of them are heroes. Each of them will leave a void that cannot be filled. On behalf of all Canadians, I want to offer my deepest support to their families, their friends, their shipmates, and their fellow CAF members. This is another very hard day for Halifax, for Nova Scotia, and for our armed forces families.
Now, Chief of Defense General Jonathan Vance says it's been a tough day for the military as well, especially those deployed in the NATO exercises.
This is a time of agony for all families, friends, and fellow crew members. There is nothing worse than sending your shipmates over the horizon and losing contact. We have contacted all next of kin. We will provide them with all of the support and resources we can to help through this difficult time.
The cockpit recorder and the flight data recorders have both been recovered.
The recorders broke away from the helicopter on the crash and floated, and they had a beacon that's automatically set off, and the ship and the ship's crew were able to find that the beacon and therefore recovered it.
Now, those flight recorders are being brought back to Ottawa for analysis. A lot of questions still remain. A team of investigators has been dispatched, and the search continues for the remains of the other flight crew members and the wreckage of the helicopter. In Edmonton, Canada, Thomas I. Likeness, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Thank you, Thomas. And, our hearts definitely go out to the families who've lost loved ones in this horrible crash. Thomas, before you go, can you tell us a little bit more about what this Operation Reassurance mission is all about?
Well, this is a military exercise, Sabir. It involves training, exercises, and some NATO-specific tasks in the Alliance of Countries, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. We've got about 900 Armed Forces members involved in that, including 215 sailors aboard the HMCS Fredericton. That sailed from its home port of Halifax in January. They were to be out for 6 months in the Mediterranean for this operation.
Oh, wow. Can you give us any information on the officer who passed away?
Yes, Sub-Lieutenant Abigail Colbro was 23 years old. She graduated from the Royal Military College of Canada in 2018. Now, she was serving as a Marine System Engineering Officer aboard that ship. She's also a talented bagpiper. You recall, following that deadly shooting in Nova Scotia, Colbro was recorded playing Amazing Grace on the bagpipes. She was standing on the deck of the HMCS Fredericton, that same ship, playing that song as a tribute to the 22 victims. She was also an active member of her church in Halifax.
Yeah, that's really sad. And I understand, the crew, some of the crew came from the Atlantic provinces. And with this tragedy, the mass shooting that happened last week, in your opinion, how do you think people are handling these situations and staying safe, especially from this pandemic?
Well, yeah, you're right. This is yet another tragedy for the people in the province that they have to deal with. Nova Scotia is a small province. It's a small community, especially in the military. There's a sub-community of members of the military. They will lean upon each other. But for the people in the province, they have to be wondering why. Why so much tragedy? I mean, first the pandemic. Then we had the mass shooting a few weeks ago, and now a flight crew from a ship that's based out of Halifax has perished. There's just so much sadness in the province now.
Yeah, no, I agree. And What sort of support is being deployed from Canada to help with the search?
Well, as well as the HMCS Fredericton conducting a search, other allies in the exercise are assisting as well, countries from Europe, in that search for the wreckage and the remains of the others aboard.
And then with the helicopter itself, are they investigating any mechanical issues? And what about the other helicopters that are currently in service?
Well, General Jonathan Vance, who's the chief of defense staff, said he's confident about the airworthiness of the Cyclone helicopters. They're made by Sikorsky, a division of Lockheed Martin. A company representative is on his way to the Mediterranean for a first-hand look. Now, Vance says he has no issues with how safe these aircraft are. They've been in the air for about 9,000 hours, but the helicopters have been put on what's called an operational pause. What this means is they're not grounded as such, but they're not going to be flown for the time being. They want to make sure that this was not a fleet-wide problem that occurred in this crash. The military has 17 other Cyclones in the fleet, so they're just going to be using them for now.
Well, thank you so much, Thomas, for that report.
Well, thank you, and I just want to say it's good to see you in the big chair, and hopefully we'll see you there often.
We'll see. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, well, let's briefly take a look at the numbers of COVID-19 cases in the country. In Canada, so far, we've got around over 53,000 confirmed cases. Over 21,000 have recovered, and we've got just over 3,000 deaths. Now, in Ontario, the province I'm in, we have over 16,000 with over 1,000 recovered and close to 1,200 deaths. Quebec, where most of the cases seem to be, have over 27,500 confirmed cases. Just over 6,000 cases have recovered and just close to 2,000 deaths. In Alberta, 5,000, close to just over 5,000 confirmed cases, close to 2,000 have recovered, and just close to about 100 deaths right now. And in British Columbia, just over 2,000 cases, 1,300 have recovered, and just over 100 deaths. Now on to news from the Ontario government. Premier Doug Ford, in his press conference, started things off with empathy towards Ontario residents who feel frustrated with this pandemic situation. However, things are moving in the right direction.
We, as a province, 14.5 million people, have taken this fight seriously. We have thrown everything we have at this virus. And because of that, because of you, we have made tremendous progress. Today, we're on the path to reopening the economy because that curve is flattening. That surge in our hospitals, we avoided it. And that trend is going down. There's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Premier goes on to say, with all these efforts happening in Ontario, he is laser focused on opening up businesses in phases and is providing sector-specific guidelines to ensure Ontario businesses adapt to this new reality.
And I am laser focused right now on opening things up as quickly as we can in a safe and measured way. We will open things up in phases as it becomes safe to do so, based on health and science.
Well, how are these businesses going to get ready for their grand opening, so to speak? Premier had this to say.
Today, we're telling our businesses how to be ready for when we get that green light. We've been working closely with Ontario's health and safety associations. Together, we have developed over 65 sector-specific guidelines for Ontario workplaces.
Guidelines for health, retail, construction, and manufacturing and other sectors that will give businesses the opportunity to understand a little bit more what the government is asking them to do. This is providing a strong foundation And this is key as the Minister of Labor, Training and Skills Development, Minister McNaughton, strengthened that foundation by adding an additional 58 people to join the provincial inspectors to help businesses do a better job or be fined.
In that spirit, today I'm announcing an additional 58 people will be joining our provincial labor inspectors. They'll be starting this week. Some of the new inspectors will focus on communicating COVID-19 safety guidelines like the ones the Premier just spoke about to essential workplaces. Others will enforce emergency measures. This includes physical distancing on job sites and the closure of non-essential businesses. If you're not doing a good job of promoting distancing, the inspectors will help you correct that. Eventually, if you're not doing a good enough job, you'll get fined.
Over to news in Ottawa. Some long-term home care facilities have asked families to stop window visiting their loved ones. The Mayor of Ottawa, Jim Watson, has said they should rethink this measure, and the Premier was asked for his reaction.
I'm trying to be politically correct, but I'm usually not politically correct. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. You have a loved one, you know, at a home, and most of them are elderly, and the last time you get to see your parents in some cases, I don't know who's come up with this ridiculous idea, but they need to rethink it.
They do indeed. Now off to news in Manitoba. Following a similar strategy, but with timelines, the Premier of Manitoba, Brian Pallister, plans to reopen businesses starting Monday. Premier goes on to praise Manitobans on their efforts to flatten the curve and credits their efforts as the reason more medical services and some non-essential businesses will begin to reopen on Monday. Premier said, and I quote, "We must remain diligent in maintaining physical distancing, practicing good hygiene. But our gradual, leveled approach will help us safely restore our services." End quotes. Now to the weather of for the country. And our street scene today is a scene out downtown Calgary, shot by our good friend Justin Gompal. So looking at the weather map in British Columbia, we're currently sunny, 14 degrees in Vancouver, and 13 in the provincial capital of Victoria. Mostly sunny in Alberta. Edmonton at sunshine at 21. I'm sure Thomas enjoyed that. Calgary at 20, partly sunny in Saskatchewan. Saskatoon is 22 degrees. Up to 23 in Regina, the country's hotspot. Partly cloudy and 17 in Winnipeg. Still much cooler in Toronto, only 13 degrees with some clouds. Ottawa, mostly rain and 15 degrees. That's where I was. And that's where I am. 17 in Montreal, and pretty much the same. Atlantic provinces still pretty chilly, 4 degrees, although mostly sunny in Halifax. Coming up on Eagle News, we will hear from our correspondent, April Masong in Toronto. You're watching Eagle News Mornings from Canada. Stay tuned.
Magtatagumpay tayo, salamat. Kung mag-fail tayo, salamat. Ang importante po, sinubukan natin, ginawa natin yung makakaya natin.
Napatunayan ko na yung talent na binigay sa akin ng Diyos, mas may expose pa. Kaya sa mga ibang artist dyan, lalo na sa mga may kapansanan din, mag-explore pa tayo ng ibang bagay tulad nito. Huwag tayong magtago, huwag tayong mahihiya. Gawin natin kung ano yung gusto talaga nating gawin.
This program is presented by SMC Infrastructure, building a better world. Vet-approved NutriChunks, the only premium dog food with active boost for optimum energy and prebiotics that help strengthen immunity. Just like Catherine Bernardo, gawing listo ganado ang fur babies nyo. Listo ganado sa NutriChunks. Co-presented by Kubert, expert in air conditioning and electromechanical. Also engaged in structural, electrical, fire protection, plumbing, and sanitary services. Kubert, your ultimate MEPS and air conditioning solutions. Vita Herbs Philippines Green Coffee. Masarap, mabango, at healthy pa. Canrib Corporation, your ventilation and air conditioning specialist. New San Jose Builders Incorporated. Unlad Incorporated International. Fight against global poverty. In participation with Rain or Shine Elastomeric Waterproofing Paint. Color for protection for your home. Matimco. Matimco is wood. Wood is Matimco. R Square Variables Incorporated. Your trusted UPS supplier and UPS maintenance provider in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. CompuZell Computer Services, ID card and lanyard manufacturer. Saisho International Trading Corporation. DN Steel. EMAC UPVC Roof Corporation.
The Bulacan Bulk Water Project is a treatment facility that will provide bulk water to the 24 municipalities of Bulacan to meet the increasing water demand of its residents. Through concessionaire, SMC Infrastructure also initiated the significant improvements of the Manila North Harbor Port, the country's busiest port.
Listo at ganado ang baby ko sa vet-approved NutriChunks. With active boost and prebiotics na pampalisto. Made with real meat, with essential nutrients to help them grow healthy and happy. Listo, ganado sa NutriChunks.
I'm Sabir Mufti. Because of physical distancing measures, we now live most of our norm online. Having internet connection is vital to stay connected, not just to families and friends, but to various government support. We now go to Toronto, where the city has partnered with telecommunications companies to bring free internet to people in need. Here is Eagle News correspondent April Masongsong for the report.
Toronto Mayor John Tory recently announced that the Toronto government has entered a partnership with technology and telecommunication companies to provide free temporary internet access to Toronto's most vulnerable populations, which has been made possible through donations.
To prevent the spread of COVID-19 in city-operated long-term care homes, visits from family and friends were suspended, and the Wi-Fi-enabled common rooms were closed. The city's Technology Services Division has recently expanded free 24/7 Wi-Fi access for seniors living in these homes. These new Wi-Fi hotspots in the long-term care residences will allow residents to practice physical distancing while at the same time staying connected to friends and to family to help alleviate the feelings of social isolation that many of them are experiencing.
This is in light of the physical distancing measures that have been put in place to battle the spread of COVID-19 in Toronto, thus resulting in the full shutdown of the city's public libraries and community centers, where those of low-income populations were once able to access free Wi-Fi. Mayor Tory emphasizes the importance of access to valuable health information and vital services online. The city recognizes that the shutdown of these public services has been difficult for many people who cannot afford internet access to get crucial updates needed to stay healthy and informed.
Rogers is donating free Wi-Fi for 3 months to 4 permanent City of Toronto shelter locations and has also installed free Wi-Fi in 5 temporary shelter locations to help facilitate physical distancing during the pandemic period. This will ensure that there is coverage throughout the shelter to allow those experiencing homelessness to access important online supports and services.
Primarily, the city will be directing complimentary internet access, namely to 25 residential buildings in low-income neighborhoods, city-operated long-term care homes, and city-operated homeless shelters. The residential buildings and some homeless shelters will be receiving Wi-Fi access in early May. The city's Technology Services Division has expanded the Wi-Fi in long-term senior care homes to individuals' rooms, where before it was only available to them in their common rooms. Additionally, the Toronto Police Services and the United Way help community and mental health services in providing those who are eligible to receive a free cell phone or a SIM card. This will help these vulnerable communities stay connected and reach out to said services if needed. Mayor Tory expresses his gratitude to the major telecommunication companies for coming together and providing internet access and installation services to Toronto's most vulnerable.
Technology, now more than ever, is helping us to stick together and to stay connected and to fight COVID-19. I'm confident we will win this fight and will make sure that our city comes out stronger than ever, more connected than ever, and more focused on helping each other.
In Toronto, April Masongsong, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
Thank you, April, for that report. Now, we told you earlier this week that the annual Calgary Stampede has been canceled. Eagle News correspondent Tiffany Alisasis reports on this cancellation that left many fans disappointed.
So for the first time in over 97 years, Calgary's world-famous event that draws more than 1 million visitors each year is cancelled due to the worldwide spread of COVID-19. The Calgary Stampede is unable to hold this yearly rodeo event. An event that was scheduled from July 3 to 12 was cancelled for the ban of large gatherings and the need for physical distancing. As Mayor Naheed Nenshi stated, this is very, very tough. Stampede is such an important part of who we are as a community, and it's hard for me to even imagine what a July without Stampede would look like. But this year, with the risk, we simply cannot continue to do that. Due to the cancellation of this major event that brings in more than 1 million visitors each year, and according to the Conference Park of Canada, it pumps $540 million into the provincial economy annually. Nenshi said, though the city is currently focused on the physical and mental health of local residents, Calgary's road to economic recovery will be a challenge. Here are some individuals who share their thoughts of the Calgary Stampede being closed this year.
Hi everyone, I'm Julina Galera. I've lived in Calgary for the past 6 years, and for every year since 2015, I've went to the Calgary Stampede at least once. So I think the most I've been in 1 year is probably 4 times. And I go every year with like my friends, my family, different groups of friends, so I go at different times. It's always a fun time to go to the Stampede because it's when like everyone's mostly free and everyone wants to go, so you can get all your group of friends together. So the Stampede, and like plus you can ride the rides and try the different foods there, so it's always a fun time. So I'm kind of sad that we don't get to go this year, especially me and some of my friends. We make it a thing where we go every year together. So it's kind of sad that this is the first year that they cancel it in Calgary, and it's the first year, I guess, since I've lived here that I don't get to go. And that might be true for a lot of other Calgarians too, who've lived here maybe their entire lives, who've been going to Stampede every year. I wish we can go this year, but of course, rather keep myself safe and everyone else safe. So.
As this pandemic continues to spread, we need to do our part and stay at home so we can flatten the curve. In Calgary, Canada, Tiffany Alisasis, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Thank you, Tiffany, for that report. Now, before we go, I would just like to wish the Christian Family Organization overseer of the Iglesia Ni Cristo, Brother Angelo Iranio V. Manalo, a happy birthday. From all of us here in Eagle News Canada, best of health and happiness to you, Brother Angelo. Happy, happy birthday. From everyone here on our Canadian News team, thank you for joining us. Until we see each other on Monday, take good care of yourself. Take good care of each other. Stay home. Stay safe. And as my good friend and colleague Thomas Eyelikeness always says, stay tuned to Eagle News for accurate and balanced coverage of the COVID-19 pandemic. In Ottawa, Canada's nation's capital, Sabir Mufti, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.